report I handed out, you will see that other than some minor interests, this is there's been no actual activity since the last report, which was 10/31. There has been some, okay, we'll get to it. And the money market account is zero. That account is closed. The scholarship fund has $60.93 in it. The checking account has $1,745.16. The total on our books of $1,806.09. On the checking account, you will notice a couple of additions and changes. One was the transfer from the general account for $1486.71. It was a Don Reinhardt fundraiser for shirts of $100, and I went out and got a collection from Tim Irons Insurance Company for $200. You will also notice that there was a payment for the accountant to get the IRS squared away for $400. So that's basically the numbers on the account. Let's get to the IRS for 1 second. I got an email somewhere in the middle of the week that Electric Bob over in Bristol had checked our situation as far as our status, 5013 status, and we weren't listed, and started flying around. And I went, called the IRS, took me 2 hours to talk to somebody. We are current, we are on the books, we were fine. It'll take another, she's telling me why it took so long, I don't know. And according to her, it may take another 2 months before that status on the web is corrected. I requested, and we'll have, hopefully, by now it's probably another week and a half, that I will get an affirmation from my IRS that our status is fine. So if there's any questions about that, let me know, but I suspect, well, it was interesting because I was in the email that I got, it was interesting, and I did request a response if anybody knew of anybody who was having problems with donations and having to find the ability to turn it in as a contribution. One thing that you won't find on this treasurer's report, I went and paid without the board's permission, I guess, because we haven't met for a couple of months. $80 for the year for the post office box. So that's been paid. We're up to date for year 2015. You will also notice that I had put in the newspaper the dates for our meetings. The bill on that we haven't received yet, but I think it was around $23 and some odd cents. There will be, and I will be posting, and in the newspaper, it has to be in by the 16th of February. We will be putting in the notices for the election. There will be 3 separate situations. I would inform everybody who intends to run. Let me see, how's that work? The petitions have to be in no later, and this is an old date. You can, if there's any questions to it, please contact me and I'll inform you if it's different. And this is February 15th, you see that? Okay, Mary has helped me out with some of this. She did this before, and she informs me that the petitions have to be in, for those running, have to be in no later than February the 15th, so please take note of that. And they have to be in my hands by the end of that day. Otherwise, they will not stand. May also think, could request some help for the election. We're going to need election workers again. I believe there's, what, 3? Anybody want to help me with that? 2 or 4? Anybody know? There's somebody who manages it. How many workers do we have?
3. 3. County Board of Elections.
Well, usually they've
been the same, well, they were the same 3 other than Sheila dropped out, but
I think it's only a 3.
And their names should be in there.
Okay, I'm just advising you.
Leo wasn't able to do it last year because of his work schedule.
Right.
Okay, well, I'm just advising everybody. I'm working on it now just to keep everything flowing in its proper direction. So I got the IRS.
Treasurer Sunstein, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
When is the deadline for people to run for the office, do we know?
To run, well, well,
Petition.
February 15th.
I've just said, if you're going to run, you have to have the petitions no later than February 15th. There is always some conversation and disgruntlement as to the write-ins, but that does not request or require that notice.
Make a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
So just one other thing before you get through there. Thanks, Lynette. In regards to the election, there has to be a scheduled drawing from the city of the council for the list of those running for the office, and that will have to be done between the 17th or the 20th. There's 2 days, 17th or the 24th. So until that, we won't know the list or how they will be listed on the election ballot. February 17th, which is a council meeting, or February 24th. Okay, I'm sorry now. Scott, you want a question?
No, good now. I was just taking minutes.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a motion on the
And a
floor.
motion to accept.
To accept the
Second.
treasurer's report, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think you missed secretaries.
Yeah, I missed the secretary's report. In front of you all, you have the, I missed it on the agenda. You have the minutes from the last meeting. I want you to go over them, or if you haven't already. There was a motion about JJC votes, but I couldn't remember the content of the motion. It was just for, I believe it was Don to contact JJC votes after some discussion. In my note-taking, I was remiss in not being able to read it.
That's correct.
Make a motion to accept the November 13th minutes with the correction, under public portion, Mike Zalot, it should be Z-A-L-O-T.
Thank
You got Z-E-A.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
we don't know whether he's a zealot or not. He's a zealot.
I got Jamie's
Yeah, Jamie.
last name right. It must have been that autocorrect thing. It's too small for me to read.
He's a zealot for the cause.
May I interrupt for a moment, please, Mr. Treasurer? Yeah, I would like to bring up, and I'm sure it'll be discussed here, but the monies from Mr. Young Newman Jr. for the carousel funds that are to be given over to the board for scholarships or whatever. We need, and people on this board have been, I think, been checking it out and going after it, but we need a plaque. Mr. Newman Senior has requested that we somehow get some kind of large check so we can have a presentation, and I don't know if Mr. President or somebody on this board would like to follow up with it for me and with me, but I want to get the newspaper here. See, this young man deserves an awful lot of credit, so I want to make sure that we get that done, and somebody on this board, or however it gets done. I know that I think Don has been involved in it. I have checked this and checking around. And actually, Don, have you come up with anything?
Yeah, I talked to Colorcraft down in, first I went to Barrett Printing down on 130 there in, just outside of Lowenboro. They do them there, but they told me to do it, to get it done at a better price, just go right to where he gets it done, which is Colorcraft in Beverly. The guy's name, probably some people on the board here probably know him, is Jimmy Monar. He's a Burlington guy, went to Vietnam and all that stuff and everything. We know each other. He lived right down the street from me. He said he'd gladly take care of it and give us a great price on a plaque. And he says he does have what do you call it, wording already if we need wording and stuff like that, because he said it gets a lot of people. But Scott came up with an idea on some stuff that he would like to put on there. So I think what we have to do is over the next 2 weeks assemble some sort of wording that we think that's going to be acceptable for what we want to do. It has something to do with the carousel and stuff like that, and then we'll just pass it down to Jimmy and let him take care of it for us.
Okay, if I may, can I have a list of people who will actually get involved physically and get this done?
I'll gladly get involved.
Don, why don't we have a meeting with you and Scott and me?
Do that too.
All right, do you want to, I don't mean to take away your thunder, Mr. President, but do you have a date that you guys want to get together, so maybe I can maybe attend, but at least
Well,
I
that
can
wasn't
follow
all
up.
business after
Oh, I'm sorry.
the Secretary's report, but since you're on it and you're obviously on the edge of your seat, yeah, we could do it. I mean, I could do it, I will be, I should be around tomorrow. I'm not sure what my schedule looks like at this point, but I could do it tomorrow or
Well,
hopefully
Can
Monday.
you commit to a time
Yeah, what would work for you?
in the morning?
Sure.
I'm sorry, I'm scheduled up for tomorrow myself personally. Hey, can we do it sometime next week would be better?
Monday, I might be out of town.
I have a class.
Tuesday on, but I'm not sure yet. I'll find out tomorrow.
I think we could probably handle it sometime next week. It shouldn't be a problem, and that way we get time to think about it too.
All right, may I interject, if you would, as, since I'm going to be dealing with these funds, could the three of you send me an email with times that you can get together and
Sure.
then we pick it? So I have it on my file, I know I can follow it up. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
and I can always
Is that
be
okay
on
with
the
you guys?
phone. You can put me on your speakerphone or whatever.
Yeah, okay.
I can't do
Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
Thank you.
So Don, how about if you and Mary work out a time after the meeting and, or a date and, just, that'd be great. And Don, you'll contact Jim Molnar, what is it, Color what?
Colorcraft.
Where
Well-
you been?
I was just thinking, I would be happy to cover part of the cost of this, in case anyone else is, so that we don't have to go into the treasury to pay for it.
Yeah, I was originally going to take care of it myself.
So why don't we split it 3 ways? I'll throw my 2 cents in there too.
I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal, but we'll find out when we get a chance to sit down and show Jimmy something.
Okay.
All right, so, we have, I think we have a motion.
We have an open motion, yeah. We have an open motion, we need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Questions?
Question on that, Murray, were you speaking of a large check?
Exactly.
How can we get a copy of what the check basically looks like so we can send it out to the printer if it goes? I have somebody that might go print that for us.
You know, Burlington Press does a lot of that kind of stuff for me.
Good. Okay.
And all we really need to do, is kind of make up, he can make it like 20 by, I think it's 20 by 17 or 18.
Yeah, if I may, I don't think it can be that expensive, so if,
No, it wouldn't be that expensive.
so I would suggest we just let them do it, just give them the information, and let's get it done. Is it fair enough, or you agree with that?
Yeah.
All you really need to give them is the amount,
Right.
the amount of what the check is.
I'll get
gonna
that.
be and all.
I
It's
have
going to be an accurate check, so.
Right.
We'll have
Just give them
anything
the amount, and they'll put on their board item manager.
Yeah, you'll-
No,
I'll
no,
take it to
no,
the
the
bank
check
and-
isn't from the board, yeah, we have to find out who the check is actually written from.
I'll find that out.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Okay, so the minutes,
We should plan it for basically state the fact that maybe at the next meeting, we will.
That's what I want to know, because I've been talking to Mr. Newman, and
Right,
he's
right.
been requesting when, and
Yes.
I've kind of basically told him that we'll be at our next meeting, not this one, but,
Right.
next month. So, I need to firm that up, because I don't want to leave them hanging out, and we've been letting them kind of hang for the last 3 months, so.
well, let's commit that we'll have it done for the next meeting, so the next meeting date, we can certainly let them know now. Don't you think? Are you in agreement with that?
Yes.
Okay, so let's just make sure we follow up and get it
I
done
move,
then.
I move we do this presentation at the next meeting, February's meeting.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, on the question? Okay, so we'll have, present to Connor Newman for his hard work, raising money for the carousel that's going to the board of planning managers. Okay, public portion, please state your name, address, and, sorry.
Michael Zalat, 506 Locust Avenue in Burlington. I'm going to have Jamie give you a copy of stuff here. I have a number of questions. There hasn't been a meeting in a couple of months, and I wanted to be sure that the questions are presented. And after I finish the questions, if any of the board members wish to address it, I would appreciate it. First of all, I'd like to express my thanks to President Carbone, sorry about that, Carbone, for having an agenda that makes things a lot easier. I have this list here. I'll read the list, and then if you like, you can answer after. The federal law requires for acceptance of the 501(c) bylaws, and I wanted to know which bylaws were submitted. I know that we had attempted twice while on my term on the board to have bylaws passed, and they were defeated. I wanted to know if any bylaws were submitted and which ones they were. The second one is a candidate for the island election in 2014 was stating in March that she was going to Florida. It's on her Facebook, March 15th actually. And yet she was put up to stand for an election that she would obviously not finish the term. I believe that something should have been noted at that point, and I hope that there's some sort of explanation. I also noted there's been a lot of trouble with people understanding with the island board. The island board, and we've been told by Mr. Ustavich numerous times, is a school board. And it's under the New Jersey School Board 18-9, whatever the numbers are, I'm not really sure. And under the school board rules, the meetings are to be held twice a month, and they are to have their election in November. And anyone that missed 3 consecutive meetings is automatically removed as a member. So I would hope that this would be addressed. Okay, some things have been printed in the paper and stuff, important things that had to be done. It's very good that they were printed. I'm just curious as to when the expenditures for these were approved to spend money. When the schedule, okay. And the reason I ask this is because when the several meetings ago, perhaps maybe in late summer, the board had discussed having 2 meetings per month, and it was tabled. And by printing the schedule in the newspaper, this does not allow leeway for the fact that if the board takes that off the table and discusses it, what is going to be done with that. Okay, again, I'm going to mention this. I tried to explain this to you. It seems some people are totally against, so they don't want to discuss. But the force majeure is not a privilege for our former developer, your former developer, but it's an important step for the Board of Island Managers. If the force majeure is in effect, and if it goes into effect, the Island Board maintains control of the entire island for up to 24 years if they meet the criteria that was set when the lease was approved. So I was hoping that someone did address this with City Council or the Mayor, if you can find them. Several grants were mentioned, which were very good ideas, but they were not approved. So I am curious if the board for this coming year has some plans in place to raise money to continue the board's fiduciary duty of supporting the school system. This is the main object of the board, is to provide money for education, and something of a large nature would have to be done to do that. One of the things that was put forth was a very good idea, in fact the best idea I heard in 30 years on the board, by Mr. Manager Reinhardt, was to extract water from the island and to bottle and sell it. This would be money obtained from the island, using the island's resources, and it would provide many, many thousands at least of dollars and upward. The water from the island is considerably better. My daughter told me she just read that our city water does not have fluoride because we don't have money in the city to provide fluoride, making the island water much more healthy. Okay, I've asked the board several times. I'm going to ask again nice, maybe that'll work. Please, I would like to have the minutes from the 2014 meetings. I don't have a copy of them, and they're not presented to the public. I used an Oprah request twice. Oprah requests generally are 5 days. It's now been 2 months. There's a heavy fine for the organization and for the chairperson. I don't want to disrupt the board by spending its money, but I would like to have the minutes, which are a public record. And watching it on TV is not the same as reading it. I can read it in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It's not as fast as I used to be. To watch the board meeting, I have to sit through 2 hours to get to the information that's there. Okay, and that's it. Thank you. If anybody wishes a response, now would be the time. Thank you.
Anybody wish to respond? I might make a note. It was the request was for 2013's minutes, but you weren't exactly specific about the minutes. I think I responded to you last, whenever
A couple months
I took
ago.
over. Well, no, I actually sent you a letter back in May. I guess you never sent me a request.
I don't think he,
I didn't get a request.
what you requested was not the minutes, he requested certain documents. I don't never remember Mike over requesting the entire year of 2014 minutes. He over requested certain documents that we were not able to provide because the secretary had no record of those in the minutes.
I do have a copy of the submission. I have it at home. I have a duplicate.
Right, and it wasn't the 2014 minutes, it was certain documents that Ron used to Venice supposedly.
It was the minutes plus the documents.
I'd like to see that because I know you asked for specific documents that we couldn't provide. The specific, copies of the minutes, we can go right into the book, get them, print them, and give them to you.
Well, that's
And
what I
charge
like.
you for them, but you were asking for letters between our attorney and, what the heck was the name of that?
Fidelis?
Fidelis. That's what you were mainly concerned with. That's what I remember reading.
I think Mike is letting us off easy at this point. We should get him the minutes to the meeting and just give him a copy of it.
If that's what he wants, is the minutes. He was asking
I don't
for
see a
documents.
problem, I don't see a
couldn't
problem,
provide.
no reason to sit there and
There's
argue about it.
there's not an argument.
Yeah,
He
withdraw.
did not ask for minutes for the meetings, Don. It's
Why don't we
another
get-
false statement.
With all due respect.
It's not a false
It's a
statement.
false statement.
If he comes up with the paperwork, what are you gonna do then?
Then I'm gonna say I was wrong, but I can
Okay,
tell you
there you
that,
go.
hey, Don,
First of all,
don't challenge me in a public portion like that. You better just sit down there and relax.
Don't threaten me on
Take a
the
deep
board.
breath. I'm
Don't
not
threaten
threatening
me
you.
on the board.
I'm not threatening you.
Gentlemen, enough.
I'm
You just
stating
warned me.
fact.
Did you just warn me?
Enough, enough.
That's crap.
Anyway, Mike,
Yeah, that's it.
if you,
Point of order.
if you want 2014's minutes, you're certainly, I can go through my files and get them for you, but I didn't get a Public Information Act request.
first
on
of all,
2014.
you don't get minutes from an Oprah request. Oprah requests cover very specific points of information from specific documents. To ask for the minutes of a meeting, that's not an Oprah request. You just ask for the minutes, okay? And we can give you that because they're just minutes. But an Oprah request has to be a very specific point in a very specific document that can be named. Okay, so if you're going to, if you want to know you know, what the breakdown of the vote was by the board on a certain issue on May 21st meeting, 2013, and the issue is whether or not to have a dog catcher, all right, that goes under Oprah. But if you're just asking for minutes, we'll get you that. That's nothing that has to go through Oprah.
Thank you.
And, Mr. President, if I may, make a statement. Michael, as far as the water is concerned, I've investigated it, I've gone after it, I've chased it, I've explained it, maybe not to you, but people on this board. The water companies don't go out and create an ability to take water off of a site. The owner or people who are selling water to the water companies do that on their own. So the equipment and the cost of doing all that would fall on us, and we don't have to go out there and hire a company to do all that. I'm sure there's water testing involved, and I would agree with you, the water is probably fabulous. I've also talked to Mr. Jim Kennedy, who was on the National Water Board or something of that nature, and he advises that that's an extremely difficult situation and costly. I don't disagree. I have talked with Don and most people on this board. I would love to get water off that island. The question, part of the problem, and if I may say something that's a little off color, the problem with this board is we don't have any people who do anything. They talk a lot. I'm sure at times I'm one of those talkers. But when I go out and investigate it, and I do respond to it, and I explain what's going on, it ends there. So that's the problem with the water. I would just add one other thing when it comes to the Fidelis situation. You and I have had this go around forever. You think I set something up with Fidelis and with the city, or they did something on their own, and that our attorney was involved. Our attorney was never involved. There was only one meeting that I know of between the city and Fidelis, and I think, well, I don't, was Fidelis there, Nick? When you guys refused to talk about it because we
It was
didn't have
myself and Jimmy.
Yeah, and it had to do with Fidelis, or, yeah. So there was a meeting. I don't know what documents come from where that you might want to validate that. But our attorney was not there. In fact, the meeting was concluded because Nick said, without our attorney here, we're out of here, and that's what happened. So I'm not sure where your suspicions are and of that nature, but this has been told to you a number of times.
I did present Manager Mary a copy of a 6-page document prepared by Mr. Ustovinich. And I didn't mention it in this thing, but I appreciate your explanation.
Yeah, and there may have been a document that was, or some kind of information that was given to the board, but there was, and because in the conversation with Fidelis, the information or the thought that I created this thing is a little out of proportion. And I repeat it one more time for the public. Tom Sazaki brought the gentleman in to my office at the inn because he was interested in doing and purchasing the what do you call it? The pipe plant.
Waterworks.
Yeah, no, not the waterworks. It was the plant, the one that's now closed. And part of that situation, his problem with wanting to purchase that property was they needed remediation soil. And he thought at the time there was a whole thing going on with the Corps of Engineers, and they were going to take off dredge spoils and put another 500,000 cubic yards back. That's still on hold. It may still happen, I don't know. But the gentleman from Fidelis came and spoke to me with Tom Sazaki and wanted to know if it was something the board would be interested in. We were. The Fidelis group was here. They did talk to us. You probably were here, or you may have been on the board at the time. I don't really know. But it absolutely went nowhere after that. And Fidelis actually got very upset and very annoyed with the city and with the whole situation and just walked away. So I will tell you, there are no documents on a legal level between our attorney, Fidelis, and the city. There is maybe documentation around here of conversations that you were probably privy to or have seen and you've been told. So I don't know what more we can do to assuage your questions or your thoughts, whatever they may be. But that's the situation as I am aware and as far as I know.
Thank you for your comments, but I did not mention that in these things that I had here, but I do
No,
appreciate
but it was
what
had
you
to do with the documentation request, and I think that's what where it was coming from.
Oh, okay, I didn't even have Fidelis in mind, but thank you.
And I'm gonna speak with the attorney, about this New Jersey School Board regulation, because this is the first time I've ever heard that we're considered under the school boards. I believe it's an independent entity that, has nothing to do with the school boards, but, that's fine.
I would like to suggest also that you talk to him about the bylaw things. If I am not mistaken, Mr. Eustavitis told us 2 or 3 years ago that we were not responsible for submitting bylaws because we are an elected entity. And that was covered in a meeting. And I'll have to look and see if I can find minutes to that effect, but I remember him talking about that and telling us specifically that we didn't have to provide bylaws because of that.
And we're bound by charter.
Yes.
Charter is our
And that we're bound
bylaw.
by charter.
Now, at the time, I was sitting out there in the peanut gallery when Mr. Cipriano was due diligently working on the 501c application. This was brought before the board, which I was not a manager at the time. And he specifically said he used the board's charter at the time. Now, I'm going to tackle number 6. I filled in a seat 2 years ago. Alex Marvel vacated, and in between the two on the force majeure, in between my 2 seats here, as a private citizen, not in Burlington City, I had a conversation with Karen Robbins, Wilma Corporation in Beverly, New Jersey. I specifically told her she will be recorded. She agreed to be recorded, and the recording was done in front of her, and she specifically said, yes, you did find, Mr. Zalot, that clause. Since then, this board doesn't have the legal backing, well, actually the finances to join her to fight with the city. And she has since moved on. I have that tape still.
But Hal?
She doesn't have anything, she moved on to different projects.
Right, and actually, it's a moot point as far as the board goes, because Karen officially has not been in any way affiliated with this board
Yes.
since August of 2010?
Yes.
11? Since August of 2012, I think.
2012.
I know it was 12. I know it was
12.
August 2012. So, you know.
Yeah, I just wanted to address that.
Okay.
All right, anyone else in the public portion?
Thank you very much, I appreciate you.
Thank you. Okay, doing the old business.
Wait, could I just say one more thing? As to the schedule, as to the year's schedule, we didn't have a meeting, we did not have a meeting in November. We did not have a meeting in December. And in order to have this meeting tonight, we had to have an ad
We had a meeting
paper.
in
We did have a
November,
meeting.
not in December.
Oh, that's
One in December.
not in December. Okay, that's what I'm thinking. And we had to have an ad in the paper, and if we decide to go to 2 meetings a month, that can be changed.
Just amend it. As long
Yeah.
as we change
And
it.
not only that, the cost is like $23.
Okay, I'd like to close the public portion. All in favor?
Aye.
One question. Okay, old business. Dennis Connor Newman Parasol donation, came up with a plan. Status of the PSE&G golf cart donation.
I guess I can speak to that to some degree or portion of it. I gave a letter to Don Reinhardt, and apparently we've gotten no response. I've been to the post office box for the last month or so since he put that letter in. So I don't know where it was going, except that Don and I did have a conversation either by email or whatever, that he should talk to Dave Ballard, because that's where the situation arose from, and Don said he would take it from there. So other than that, I don't know what's going on.
I could fill in from there. I spoke with Dave Ballard. The letter went into the mail over 3 weeks ago, and it was properly filled out and signed and all that kind of stuff. As of 3 weeks ago, obviously, it went in the mail. Heard nothing from him, so Monday of this week, I called Dave Ballard to find out if he had heard anything about it, and if he could contact Mike Coyle of PSE&G and find out what the status is, or if he even received it. And he tried to get a hold of Mike. He couldn't get a hold of him, but Mike did give us a private cell phone number, which I told Dave I'm not going to call him on it because it said it's for Dave's use. So he said he'll take care of it. Well, Dave called me back this morning, sent me an email this morning and stated the fact that he had spoken to Mr. Coyle, and that it's okay for me to give him a call over to PSE&G. So I called him today, and he said that he hasn't been in his office for almost 3 weeks, so that seems about right, because where he is, he's away from the office. He said he's going in there tomorrow. He said if the paperwork is there, he said he'll handle it. He said if the paperwork isn't there, then I told him, I said, well, if the paperwork is there, I said, where's your office? He said, it's in Morristown. I said, well, if it's in Morristown, you let me know, and I'll personally drive over there and hand you the paperwork. And he said, okay, that's fine, we can do that. So theoretically, I should know one way or the other, but according to him, he was still for giving us the golf cart.
Is it still there? Is the golf
I
cart?
don't know, I haven't been over there to look and see. For all I know, they already scrapped it. I don't know, I haven't been over there in 6 months to a year, I guess. But according to Mr. Coyle, Mike Coyle is his name, that that is still up to be given to us, and if he agrees to it, I just have to come up with the paperwork so I can go and remove it from there. Let's put it that way.
Thank you, Tom. Great. And if we need some way to transport it, although I know PSE&G has a heck of a lot of big trucks out there.
I don't have a problem. I have trailers and everything. I can do it myself. They're not going to cost the board or anything like that. Matter of fact, it most likely will be moved over to my friend's shop over in Hainesport, and we'll go through it over there and find out what it needs.
All right. Okay. This kind of segues into, as you all know, I had a meeting with the kayak tour guy and the head of emergency management, Colonel Frank Caruso, and Dave Ballard back in May, I think it was. And the requirement, June, the requirement is such that we can actually have events and people on the island, which the golf cart would be helpful for people that don't get around well. Don has a limo golf cart that we might be able to restore down the road with some grant money, which holds, what, 10 people, 12 people?
That carries 10.
10, yeah. So we have a lot of prospects. The economy's finally getting better after 7 years. So the requirement, and I'll reiterate again, was that we have a motorized boat. It can be a canoe with a motor and a licensed EMT. So if we were to have events such as some kind of church gathering or weddings, in my case, or other things, I was wondering what the board would think about charging per person, or how you'd like to structure that. So maybe we can put on a website that we can do this and raise some valuable funds. If you had 100 people going out to sing the gospel on the lower end of the island, you're talking $1,000 in one pop. That's a great thing. One thing I wasn't able to make copies of this, but I do have the application or contract for use of facilities here. And I also have a hold harmless agreement from the city, which is interesting. Basically, it's kind of what Don was talking about out in, where is that, what's the place? Smithville, yeah. It's a similar thing where, people, the city would be held harmless if someone has a certificate of insurance. So it's not unfeasible, if that's a word, to actually have groups out there. I guess I just wanted to talk a little more about what the board would see as a proper price per person, or how it should be structured depending on the use.
Mr. President, when you talk to the individuals in the city, is this for the whole island or just our portion?
I believe it's for the whole island as far as I took it, because we were going to have kayak tours on the lake and other things. And that's
Would this hold true, do you know, if it was only on the island, the Board of Island Managers side? Do we need all of this if we don't?
I don't think we do. I mean, obviously, we should have some coverage, like a hold harmless agreement, because we don't want to be